Hello, everybody. Welcome. I hope you're hungry because we're going to show you a very tasty intranet. I don't know how many of you have had cooked intranet. Hi, I'm Charles Norman. I'm with Tyson Foods, and I have been in roles where I'm part of the SharePoint and productivity team, but part of the role is going around our organization and looking for opportunities to make our workers more productive. And been doing that for a while. And
okay. Hello. My name is Michael Shea, and I work for Dell EMC as part of the Office 365 and collaboration practice. I've been doing similar work for Dell for about 10 years now, and myself focusing more on the collaboration workloads like SharePoint, OneDrive, and Project, Yammer, and so on, in a number of different roles that I have listed on the slide here.
So we'll go through a little bit about our companies, and we'll get right into it. So if you've heard of Tyson Foods, you may think of Tyson as chicken. We're a lot more than that. We're beef, pork, chicken, pizza toppings. We're the largest supplier in the food service industry of pizza toppings, pepperoni. We do desserts, meal kits, deli, tortillas, lots and lots of stuff.
All right. And our group who delivered this project is a part of the Dell consulting practice that came out of the merger with EMC. And our group focuses on Office 365 core infrastructure, as well as the communication and collaboration workloads in O365 and on-prem. And I think our group aligns well with Microsoft's digital transformation that we've been hearing a lot about. And I think that kind of aligns well with this project where we helped Tyson transform their existing intranet and the way they did business using the tools that we have with Office 365. So I don't want to bore everybody with the marketing pitch, so I'll leave it at that, but I do want to note that we have a lot of experience in this area.
Yeah, that's a great segue. Thanks, Mike. So here's your chance to run out of the room if this is not what you thought it was going to be, but what we're going to do is we're going to tell you our story. So we had an intranet that was not working, not doing the most that it could do for our team members, and so over the next hour, we're going to tell you about how we put a new intranet together in a very short period of time. We saved money, we improved our users' productivity, we improved their accessibility, their experience, and a lot more. So before that, I'm going to let Mike take you through a little story.
All right. So we wanted to kick off today with a story or a common scenario that kind of highlights some of the issues that Tyson was having with their existing intranet. So to start here, I'm going to introduce Mike. I'm going to step into the shoes of Mike for this story here. So I'm a manager, and I'm leaving the office after a long day of work. So it's 5:30, and I'm sitting on the train on my way home. Here you can spot me again in the middle. And as I'm sitting on the train, I get an email from one of my team members, Billy, who is urgently requesting approval of a training request that he just put in. Because, of course, he put it in at the last minute. So in the email, I notice that there's a link to the form. So in my mobile phone, I try to click the link, and it's going too fast. I get a server stopped responding email. So it looks like this is something that I'm not going to be able to do on my phone. But I'll try again later if I happen to remember. So let's fast forward to later. I've now finished my dinner, I've finished my evening activities, and somehow I actually do remember Billy's request. So I go out, I grab my personal laptop, and I head over to my favorite home working space, which is this ledge here overlooking whatever beautiful city I live in. And I go out and I find the email, and I click the link, and I get a page cannot be displayed error. So it looks like this is the form that must be hosted internally and that I'm only able to get to either in the office or with a computer that has VPN connected to it. And unfortunately, I left my work computer at the office today, so it looks like poor Billy's going to have to wait. So now let me fast forward to the next day. I'm back in the office. I've finished my first round of meetings, and now I'm finally sitting back down at my office, or at my space, and you can see I'm getting in a good stretch here. After I finish my stretch, I notice that I have a voicemail from Billy who is pleading for approval of his training request. So I jump out to my inbox and try and find it, but unfortunately it's such a mess at this point that I'm not able to. But I think that this training requests are something that are fairly common, and it's something I should be able to find on my company intranet. So I go out, I open up the internet browser, and up pops my intranet landing page. So the first thing that I note here and I have it highlighted on the top, is that the existing landing page is grouped by department. So this makes me think, training requests, is that something that's owned by HR? Is that something that's owned by IT? Is there maybe some training team in one of these other departments I don't know about? I'm not sure, but most of the stuff that I access in the intranet is part of HR, so I'm going to start there. When I hover over HR, I see a bunch of teams that I'm not sure what they do, so I think I'm just going to have to click on the landing page. When I get there, I notice that this page is not going to be much help to me. There's a bunch of teams across the top, and I don't know what they do. My form is not in the left side of the quick link, so I think I'm going to give up on HR, and I'm going to try IT. But now I've come to my next problem is I don't know how to navigate to IT. There's nothing across the top, nothing across the left, nothing on the bottom. So I guess I'm going to have to follow my old standard routine of closing down the browser and starting again from the landing page. So I do that, and oh boy, I'm back here again at the landing page, and now I'm going to hover over IT. Again, I see a bunch of departments and teams that don't make any sense to me, so I'm just going to go to the IT landing page. And a couple things come to mind when I see it. One is that this looks nothing like the HR site. And secondly, it just seems to be a mess. There's a bunch of teams across the top. There's a bunch of lists and flyouts and things across the left. In the middle, there appears to be some sort of book that I'm going to have to read to. And I certainly don't feel like doing that. So I'm going to give up on IT as well. But while I was doing this, I remembered that SharePoint also has search. So I'm going to go out and try that. So close down the browser again. Get back to the landing page, and this time I'm going to type in training request form into the search box, hit enter, and voila! Wait, 200,000 results? Well, I'm hoping that my training request is somewhere near the top of that. So I start clicking through. My first one that I get back was modified last in 1985. Well, I don't think that's any longer relevant, so that's certainly not the right one. The second one I get is a design document about the training request form. Well, that would help if I could actually find the form. So I'm going to continue clicking through. 10 minutes later, this is me. I've looked through a bunch of search results. I've looked through a number of team sites. I can't find the form. What's even worse is I don't know who owns the form, so I don't know who to reach out to for help. So I figure that the only thing I can do at this point is probably call a couple of my buddies who are also managers here at Tyson and might be able to point me in the right direction. So now let me step back out. I'm back to this mic again now. And while this story is a little bit exaggerated, it's not too far from the experience that the Tyson team members were having with their existing intranet. So next, we want to start to walk through the story of our project at Tyson. First, we want to start to go through what were the problems that they had. So what were the common issues and pain points that they had with their existing intranet? Secondly, we want to talk through how we addressed it. So what tools we used on the project, what resources we had available, what schedule we followed, and so on. And then third, we want to walk through a little bit of a show and tell of some of the things that we built and what requirements they met. And then lastly, talk through the end result of the project, what challenges we faced and overcame, as well as the overall benefits that Tyson got from the project. So to walk through the problem, I'm going to hand this back off to Charles.
Thanks, Mike. So what were some of the problems that we had? Mike had some of those that he showed you, and while some of those were an exaggeration, some of those were pretty close. So the first thing and the most important thing was our intranet was not mobile friendly. You could only access it off the network using VPN, and it wasn't responsive, so you couldn't get a good experience on different devices. We had a mix of content across our intranet, so these department sites had a mix of team secured content that only that department's team could see, and then public content on their department site that was intended for all in the organization to see. We had multiple intranets, so through acquisition, we acquired other companies, and along with those companies came intranets. And so we had problems with users confused of where's the content at, and while linking across some of those different ones, still having mixed content in multiple intranets. That added up to basically overall an inconsistent user experience. So no consistent navigation, no consistency with the content, the layouts and branding of the departments. And so overall, jumping from different sites, it was a mess. And all of that kind of added up again, as Mike showed in his story, searching for some of this because of the way we had grown and the intranet had evolved. It had been there for years, and so some of the stuff didn't get archived or thrown away, and so we had not only unstructured content, but old and stale content that needed to be deleted and needed to be gone. So what happens when you have an intranet that's not doing the most it can for your users, and it's hard to get access to, it's hard to use? Well, you still need to get your job done. You still need to find that information. So you have a security risk of, I'm going to now do workarounds that are probably not the kind of workarounds your IT department wants your users doing. And then just an overall lack of governance. So keeping the intranet healthy, keeping it in good shape, and then having everyone that's in the intranet being able to kind of adhere to a set of standards that helps keep it a good place for information and relevant information. So we're going to talk through kind of how we got to this point. So one of the things that we wanted to not do was repeat stuff we'd done in the past. So we've redone our intranet in the past, and really a lot of times that was just a facelift. We just gave it a new coat of paint, but we didn't ever fix kind of some of the underlying problems. We didn't really get a chance to go to the foundation and start from scratch. And we didn't want to do the ways we've done in the past, and so what we did, and we do sometimes when we want to try to solve a tough problem, is we talk to Microsoft, one of our partners, and so we went down to Dallas to Microsoft Technology Center, and we took a small team down there and spent a day and a half talking through what's possible. We own Office 365. What can we do with our intranet? What are other companies doing? What are some of the best practices? And then as we go through some of those technologies that are available and what other people are doing, what are the pros and cons of those? And not only the pros and cons, but what's the best fit for Tyson? Go down there with a set of requirements, some must-haves, some nice-to-haves, and then come back with a plan that we could actually put in place. So as we were going through this, really kind of came to the options that were available to us kind of felt like they fell into three categories or three buckets. And so I'll kind of go through these briefly. Service. I kind of call this intranet in a box. There's technologies where you take your content, you throw it into someone's place, and you basically get in a very short period of time an intranet. While the short period of time was appealing to us, managing another cloud environment, managing content on yet another place in addition to where we were going to have content in our Office 365 environment was not something we wanted to do. So the next one was one we're used to, one we've done in the past, what I'd call the traditional or the custom. So you sit down with a long list of requirements, you go through all the things that you need, each person weighs in on what they want, and what you end up getting at the end of that is a very long project, it's very expensive, and it's highly custom. And so the next time you want to do an upgrade or a refresh to your intranet, you're going to do that again. And that's the process or the cycle we wanted to not repeat. The third one was these pre-configured, pre-built templates, web parts that would fit into the Office 365 environment, SharePoint Online. And these were just configurations. So wire these up to your data and off you go. And they're already out of the box responsive and mobile and device friendly. So that was one that we were intrigued with, but we didn't know anything about it. So we left the MTC thinking, okay, this is the option I think we want, but we needed to find out some more about it. So for this project, we had a team comprised of some folks in our IT department, and that was mainly our SharePoint team. It's about 7 people on that team. We had a couple of people in our back end or kind of our server side of that team. Then we had 2 people from, I'd say, internal communications and HR, and those were our project sponsors. So this was a project when this got going and heated up, our top-level leadership wanted something that they could get to on their phone. They wanted to be able to access our intranet from mobile devices and off the network. And then we had to deal with all of our content owners, so that was part of our project team as well, because we had to work with all the people that had the content and had the departments. But one thing was missing, and that was, okay, we don't have the expertise and the experience to do this. So that's where Dell EMC and BindTuning come into the part of the project where they provided the expertise, and the experience that we needed to actually put these components together and come up with a new intranet. So I won't go through all these, but this is just a little kind of high level of some of the tools that went into the new intranet. So I've got SharePoint Online and Office 365. We have SharePoint on premises because during this process we had content, we had a hybrid environment, so we had content on our behind the firewall on-premises environment, and we weren't going to do a big bang, and so we needed to be able to come back inside when someone clicked on a search result or someone clicked on a link that had not been migrated or moved into the new intranet. So we still had that, and then BindTuning themes and web parts. You'll see those a little bit later in the presentation, but that's the kind of the secret sauce or the magic that you'll see on some of the pages. And then for the areas where we had forms and we had workflows, SharePoint Designer, and quite a lot of Microsoft Flow, and I'll say a lot, a higher percentage of those were Microsoft Flow than SharePoint Designer. And then these next two were really showstoppers. If we couldn't pull these two off, we really couldn't do it. So like I said, we were going to phase this in. I'll tell you a little story here in just a second, but we were going to phase this in, and we needed to be able to go back inside our firewall and hit content on our on-premises SharePoint. And that technology that we needed to have in place is called Azure AD Application Proxy. And the other thing is our security and legal departments wanted some extra insurance that this content was going to be secure. We're going to be hosting it in the cloud and not behind our server, behind the firewall on our servers. And so we introduced Azure multi-factor authentication. And then for the scenarios where we needed to move content, we used a migration tool from Metalogix. So the surprise I haven't told you is when this got started, we were told we need to have this done in 8 weeks. Yeah, I think everyone on the project team was like, what, 8 weeks? So 8 weeks to get something out there that our users could start getting value out of and start using. And then be done in 6 months. So I'll go back to Dell EMC. Of the people that we were talking to, the conversation went really well until we gave the scope and the timeline. And it was like, I don't know, I don't think so. To Dell's credit, they actually came up with a process, which we'll go through here in just a second, that we were able to put in place and then repeat. And that's really how we were able to pull this off in the time frame that we had. So let's go through that. So phase 1 was 8 weeks. And so I'm going to kind of talk through these kind of back and forth, the scope and the process. So part of the process was we need to sit down with the content and the department owners. And so that was really what we called conducting workshops. So let's get your requirements. And what we needed to find was a set of common requirements that every department needed so that we could start to set some standards, some standard design and templates that everyone could live with. So those workshops, we pulled requirements out of those. The piece that we needed to have that we wouldn't be repeating in the next phase is this architecture and design. So we needed to lay the foundation down for what's the new intranet going to be in SharePoint Online, what are we going to have to put in place, the Azure AD Application Proxy, the multi-factor authentication, some of those technical pieces and behind the scenes architecture that you do, but you do it once. And then with these department sites, these content owners, we're going to go through a process where we build something, we review it, we iterate, we get their approval, and then it's out there live on the new intranet. So our scope on this in 8 weeks is what can we get done? Well, we can get the foundation set, we can get the groundwork laid, the home built, or we can start moving into the rooms. But then we had to pick what are our phase 1 departments. So we had to have content to go in for this 8 weeks. We couldn't just have an empty shell out there. So we started talking through what's going to get the most value. And so we had several on our list. We had the IT department, we had a help desk, we had some other smaller departments. We knew we couldn't get too big because we only had 8 weeks to work with. Phase 2, all we really did was repeat this process. So our process stayed the same. We pulled out the technical stuff, or the architecture and all of that, because that's already been done in phase 1. So phase 2 was really all about the scope side of this, is the rest of the departments. The biggest part in here in phase 2 was HR. We initially had our human resources department set up for phase 1. Our company was going through our mid-year review, and they were going to be busy with that, so they pushed us away and said, no, come back to us in a month. And so one of the things we'll talk about a little bit later in this presentation is when you're working with that many different users, that many different content owners, that many different departments, you've got to work with some of that where they're ready, you're not ready, you're ready, they're not ready. And so we picked them up early in phase 2, and it was an opportunity for them, and you'll see a little bit later, to rethink how they presented their content to the users. And it's a pretty impressive results that they got out of it. And then we also had to factor in training. So now that we get this set up, we've got to train users that are coming into the site, but we also need to train our content and site owners now because they're going to have new places to manage and new tools to use. So now we're going to talk through and show you the results of that, what we built. And keep in mind, we're going to show you things that is screenshots of the Tyson intranet. They're screenshots because we can't do a live demo. There's some stuff on our intranet that I would probably get in trouble if we showed. So some of the pictures are going to be a little blurry. It's not because we didn't have good pictures. It's just we blurred them to protect the innocent. And but the thing I want you to get out of as you see this is once we got kind of the design set, the overall templates and things like that, and the layouts for the pages and things, what you'll see is how we really use these web tarts to not only speed up the delivery of these sites and these pages, but how amazingly quick we were able to bring this content to life. So we had to have the content ready. We had to know what content we were using, but once we did that, then we were able to do that. And the other thing we were able to do in these workshops, and we'll show some of these screenshots here, is we were able to take some of these in phase 2 and show people sites that had already been built. Phase 1, they were kind of going along with us, kind of trusting us, but phase 2, we could show them, hey, go look at the IS department, go look at the legal department, go look at what they did, and they would go, yeah, that looks like about what I need. Let's move this over here. I need this instead of that. And it was very easy. The workshops went a lot quicker in phase 2 because we actually had live results to show them. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Mike, and we're going to go back and forth, kind of talking about the different areas. We'll call out some of the areas that problems we solved with some of the things that we did, and then we'll also talk through some of the web parts and how they look on the pages.
Thank you, Charles. All right, so I'm going to start with the landing page. The problems that we had with our existing landing page were, one, is that everything was very department-driven. So I basically had to know the Tyson organization in and out to find just about anything. Secondly, there was no global navigation. There was a navigation, if you remember, on the story from the landing page, but as soon as you clicked on virtually anything, that would go away and users would often get lost. And then third, the existing landing page was very static and just really didn't provide a lot of value to users. So let me bring up first screenshot here. And again, just to note that we put a note on here, but there are some things that are blurred throughout. So keep that in mind. I think you'll still have a pretty good idea of how things look, but you'll notice there's some blurs. So back to the landing page. Our new landing page, we wanted to be more user-centric. So pull information that a user actually wants and needs directly to them so they don't have to go out and find it in different departments. And one example to kind of highlight this is our navigation. So you'll notice in the middle that we still have a departments and programs drop-down. We left that there mainly based on feedback because people that have been at Tyson forever wanted to still be able to navigate and find the information the way that they were used to. But we also added some new things like the Team Member Center, Tools and Apps Center, which are things I'll walk you through in a few minutes, as well as a list of common activities, intranet activities in the I Want To drop-down, and then a list of sites that the users were following. Let me click here. So the next thing we wanted to make sure we had was a global navigation. So I highlight it. There we go. I highlighted across the top. We have a global navigation across the top as well as a global footer, which you're not able to see in this one, but it'll show up in some other screenshots. But we wanted to make sure that no matter where anybody was, if they were on a site, a page, a library, a search center, that they would not be lost and they'd be able to get to their next location from anywhere. And then lastly, we wanted to make sure that our landing page was more dynamic and provided valuable information to users. And one example of this is our tiles here. So these tiles, a couple of these tiles are static and are there all the time because they're things that people always need. But most of them are rotating in and out based on the time of year or what's happening at Tyson. So one example is if we get close to the end of year annual enrollment, The benefits tile might pop up here so that users can easily get to their benefits information right from the home page. And then the last thing I wanted to note on the landing page, and we will talk about some of the other web parts as we go throughout, but none of this stuff that's on here is custom built or is custom developed. So in the back end of this, you picture we have some SharePoint lists that basically hold information about the tiles and the news and the calendar and all those things. And then we're using the BindTuning web parts to basically connect to those lists and say how we want to display them on the home page. So building the page was easy. Maintaining the page and maintaining the information in the background is all just done through basically out-of-box stuff. So next, I'm going to hand it back over to Charles.
Yeah, and that's a key point, Mike, because what you're looking at is not only configuration, it's automatically responsive, mobile ready. So you look at this, and we'll show some of those screenshots later on a phone, tablet, laptop, desktop. It looks great. So here's I'll talk through the landing page again, but we're going to highlight the news. So our news team, what we had prior to this was a custom web part that hooked into a database that pulled news out of that database, and part of their editing process and newsroom process was a custom screen that they would use to enter stuff into that database, review, edit, make changes that go into the database, and then this custom web part would actually read from that database. So what we have here for our news is a slider web part and then a couple of news web parts that are basically just showing different styles. So 3 places. One of the requirements our news team had was they wanted news in multiple places on the page. They wanted to have a kind of a multi-tier of news. I want like high-level top story. I want kind of maybe some medium-level stories, and then I want the rest of my news stories, and those are the highlight at the bottom. What we're able to do is, like Mike said, a list where they input the news. They can basically flip a switch within that list of where does that news need to be on the page. The page loads. The page is able to go see what categories that news is in and put it in the right place. So all they do is manage a list. Everything else happens as the user loads the page. This is a shot of clicking on the news article and seeing that they were able to also get some more value that they didn't have in the old solution. So they were able to see a nice view of the news article. And then on the right, able to see categories like department and then also related items and things like that. So this gave them a lot more flexibility, and one of the things that they also wanted was the ability to roll up news from other areas across the intranet. That's a feature that's turned on. We don't have a whole lot of departments using that yet, but the idea behind that is that they would be able to submit something to the news team. The news team could then add that, and that would then roll into whatever section of the news on the landing page they wanted it to go. And then here's just a view of a search. So you're able to see the news show up here and then do some refinement on that and filtering and actually get down to whether you're searching by category, by date, or any other of the filters that are provided there and get to the news items that you're looking for. Mike, I was going to talk through a little bit of the productivity stuff we did.
All right. So by productivity, I mean, well, basically what we mean by productivity is getting tools and information into users' hands so that they can do their jobs. And the issues that we had with the existing environment, kind of similar to the other ones, is that the information was so widespread and was by department that people really just had a hard time finding it. And secondly, when they couldn't find something, they didn't know who to reach out to for help. So really it was just a struggle. So in our new environment, we created what we call centers. It basically will pull together content that lives all over the intranet and puts them in a single place so that people can find them and get to where they need. The first example of one here is the Team Member Center. What we mean by Team Member Centers is pulling all of the information that you need as a team member or an employee of Tyson and putting it in one place. So to kind of walk through it quickly here, on the left side of the page we have a grouping of tiles that show the activities that you regularly need to do as a Tyson employee. So I need to get paid, I need to travel, I need training, and so on. And then they click on here and it brings them out to where they need to go. And on the bottom left, we have a list of common tools that team members may need. tools, application, software. On the top right, we have a consolidated grouping of the common contacts that they may need to reach out to if you have questions or issues with these types of activities. And then on the bottom right, we have some quick links that will basically point them to very common things within Tyson that people are regularly looking for. Now, a second example I wanted to show is what we call the Tools and Apps Center. And what we did here is we went out to all of the different department sites as part of our workshops and figured out what tools, applications, software, et cetera, are available and relevant to all the team members. And we basically grabbed all that and consolidated it into a single page here. So to walk you through it, we have one grouping for what we called featured apps. So this is basically either the most popular apps or the apps that are popular for a certain time of year. Maybe as you get close to year-end reviews, we'll have the performance tool pop up here, for example. The second one is all apps. And this we use in a few ways, but this is basically a big grouping of all of the tools that we have. And the ways to use it is, one, it's sorted alphabetically. So if I know the name of the tool, I can find it that way. We put logos on the tile, so if you know the logo and you know the way that the tool looks, you can find it that way. And third, I wanted to note that there's also a little drop-down on the top. It's kind of hard to see, but it says department. And an example of this is if I need to book travel, but I don't know what tool to use for travel, I could come out here and pick travel from the drop-down. It would filter that list just to show me the 2 or 3 apps that are relevant for booking travel. One other thing I wanted to note on these tiles, as well as pretty much all the other tiles that we use in the intranet, is if you hover over any of them, we have it set so that they slide up and provide a little description of what it is that you're about to click on before you do it. Hopefully avoid some extra clicks. The last thing I wanted to note on the Tools and Apps page is what we call Platform. So when you first land on the page, it defaults to Browser, and it shows you all the tools and apps that you can get to on an internet browser. But we also wanted to provide a way for people to go out and find apps on their mobile phone. So what you can do is you can come out here on a phone and click on either iOS or Android. What it does is it will filter the entire page to pull back just the apps that have one available for iOS or Android. And if they click on the app, it would then, or the tile, it would bring them out to the App Store where they could download it or open it. Now before I move on, I wanted to do a quick note on just how this and the other center is built. So in the background, we have a SharePoint list that holds all of our tools and apps information. And we have that list set up with fields like title, description, the logo we want to use, the URL that it points to, and so on. And then we use the BindTuning web parts, the filters web part in this example, to basically connect to that list and say, how do we want to display that information? So we decided we wanted to show the logo on the front of the tile with the title on the bottom. When a user hovers over it, we're going to show the app description in the background, and then when they click on it, it's going to bring them out to the URL that we plug in there. And the nice thing about this is that once you build this page, we basically don't ever need to touch it again. It's all managed through that SharePoint list in the background. So if we want something to become featured or no longer be featured, you just hit the flag on the list, and it'll move it up or down. As well as if we wanted to add an item or remove an item or edit an item, all we need to do is go out to that SharePoint list and make the edits there. All right, so next I'll hand it back over to Charles.
Yep. Thanks, Mike. So one of the bigger challenges we had was, as Mike showed in his the first part walking through, was all the departments look different. And so the department owners were used to being able to kind of set their sites up, their landing pages at least, the way they thought they needed to be set up. And so that caused basically all of them to look unique, look different. So to be successful at this and to really try to get everyone to focus on the user and making the intranet consistent, we had to come up with a common set of design elements and templates that all of our department owners could agree to, so that we could set kind of what we're going to call our department portal. So that landing page that you hit for that department that then takes you to whatever else you need within that department. And that was key. We needed everyone to have a buy-in on that. And the other thing we needed was a lot of them had to go back to the drawing board of what they might have internally called something, but during the workshops we kind of challenged, well, is that what a user would call it? Is that what they would think of? And so we had some back and forth in some of the workshops, and even had some short focus groups in some areas on that to actually find out, well, how would they search for it? What would they call it? And that's where, as Mike said, on some of the tiles, while it has a label on it, hovering over the tile, it would raise up and then give them more information. So before they even clicked on it, they had a really good idea of what they were getting ready to click through to. So this is an example of our human resources landing page. But I'm showing you this one because this is a good example of what all of our landing pages at least had common elements across them. So they had kind of the slider or the hero image, and some would just have one. Others had multiple they could go through. It could be just an image. You could click through it and get to an announcement or other things. And so they used it for a variety of things, but basically the layout of that, and then 2 to 3 rows of tiles. Now these tiles could be, as you see here, kind of more of a rectangular shape, but they could also be square. But we didn't want too many tiles because we didn't want the users coming to the site and being confused, or the site so busy that they can't find what they're looking for. So really the high value stuff needs to be in this section that I'm showing you right now. Then other things like contact information or action things that they might need to be able to get an application or something like that. And then other additional resources, or what you'd say secondary links, secondary types of content would be on the right-hand side. And then what we're not showing here is we also had a site contact. So every site department landing page had to have a picture of someone and the contact information for that one. So if they had questions about the content on the site, so all in the same place. So as I go from department to department, I expect to see things in a certain place, in a certain location. So another one that we had, and I'm showing this example here, but a big problem that we were trying to solve was contacts. We had people doing contacts in a variety of ways. We had the little contact list that you can do in SharePoint. We had some teams that had so many contacts, like for our benefits coordinators or for some of the chaplains we have across a lot of our locations, and there's hundreds. We had some cases you would open up an Excel spreadsheet, and as a user, find your way through that Excel spreadsheet of who's my contact. So I said, no, I think we have a better way of doing that. So everyone likes to see someone's face. So we were able to use a couple of cool things on this. The filter part, so that we're able to set these up where if you were had a large contact list and I needed to filter down to a location or to some other criteria, I could do that. But what's nice about these is when you click on any of these pictures, it takes you to that person's Dell profile. So no more trying to get that information updated. So a lot of the other challenges they had was, okay, I've got this Excel spreadsheet and I'm having to update information on it. No, you've got a picture, you've got that person's Dell profile, their organization information, their contact information, everything right there and more. So that was really, really nice. And then as Mike was talking about earlier, hovering over these, we had it to where the behavior was you see the person's picture on the tile, you hover over the tile, their picture raises up, and you see their contact information behind the tile. And this is just an example of a drop down where this is one that was a large enough contact list that I want to be able to filter it by some other criteria. So I'll let Mike talk about search.
All right. So search, the problems we had with search were probably familiar to pretty much everyone here, in that most of the existing content was open to pretty much everyone. So I had access to more than I needed. A lot of it was messy and untagged, and a lot of it also was no longer relevant to me. So it was old and outdated. So if I was searching for something, I basically had to sort through hordes and hordes of old, non-relevant content to try and find what I was looking for. And often people couldn't find it, and they would say that search was broken. So to fix it in our new environment, we did a few things that I want to highlight. The first one here is our use of verticals. So the first vertical that is default when you land here is called New Source, and this is scoped to pull only from our intranet content. And that was because we know that the intranet content is public and relevant to everyone, and we know that it's tagged and structured properly so that if you're looking for something here that is public, like say a training request form, we're pretty comfortable that you're going to be able to find it here. Secondly, we created a vertical that we call Everything, And this is set up with hybrid search so that if I search on everything, it'll search through all the SharePoint Online sites, all the SharePoint on-prem sites, and we'll be able to pull back basically anything that I couldn't find in the intranet. And then the last one I wanted to note is the policies on the far right. So Tyson has a third-party application that they use for managing policies. We wanted to provide a way for users to be able to search and find policies right through SharePoint. So we set up an integration with their third-party application and then surfaced it through a vertical here in our search as well. The second thing I wanted to note is our use of best bets. So you'll note that there's 2 of them here. The very first one is kind of your standard use of best bet where we have a list and we say if a user searches for this, we're going to point them to this site or this page that's relevant to them. But the second one's kind of cool in that we set up best bets also to work off of the tools and apps list that I talked about earlier. So in this example, if I'm searching for benefits, which is what I'm doing here, it brings back 2 results. The first one will point me to the site or the page where I can go out and find all my benefits information. And the second one's going to pull back the tool or app where I can actually go out to modify my benefits information. So I'm able to get all that right through search, and I don't have to do a bunch of clicking. I also want to note that we did do some custom refiners to allow people to filter by information type, by department, by the site that it lives in, and so on. But the other thing I wanted to note on search is that Tyson's a big company, and they have a pretty wide variety of users. So there's some users who are sitting in a plant and very rarely use computers. There's some users who are sitting at a desk and use a computer every day. So we wanted to provide some way to give them some guidance on how to use our search. And the way we decided to do this was by putting some text and links on the Search Center. It's hard to see, but the left one says, do you need help using search? And if they click that, it's going to bring them to a little series of search help videos that will walk them through using our Search Center, as well as some general tips and tricks around search. And then the second one says, can't find what you're looking for. And if they click that, it pops up an email that's going to send to us on the IT team where they can say what it is that they were looking for and couldn't find. And that gives us a couple benefits. One is that we can help them find it and get them on their way and hopefully improve their experience. But secondly, it also allows them or us to hear directly from them what they're struggling to find and any negative feedback they have so that we can continually improve search moving forward. All right, so for communication, I'll hand it back to Charles.
Yep, so communication on this, really what we're talking about is for a project like this, how do you communicate with everybody? Our intranet users are a number close to 27,000. So how do we communicate with all those what we're doing? And that's a challenge with a large project that spans across that. And so one of the things that we came up with was a project information page. So this was a page that was available, linked off of the landing page of the new intranet so that they could go find out if they had heard about this project, had questions about it. We put videos up there frequently. These videos would range anywhere from a minute to a little bit under 5 minutes, and they covered all kinds of things as far as what was going on with the intranet and things that they could do, so new things that would be rolling out and how they needed to use them. We also had FAQ, contact, project status, all kinds of things like that going on and in this section here. And then one of the things that we really needed to be able to do, and this is another thing that really helped us, was we wanted the communication and the information about the project to be right there with the user. So as they came into the site, it was right there in their face. And so what you'll see here is this green bar is an alert, so that's a web part. And we set one of those up, and it's right in the face of the users. There's multiple ways you can kind of style these alerts, so that's one way. There's others where it shows up on the screen, the user has to interact with it to get it to go away, but once it goes away, they've acknowledged it. But this one we wanted to stay on the page. We put links on there, we put information on there, and that was for helping us as we were transitioning between these two worlds, our old intranet to our new intranet, helping users find what they needed, understand what was going on. And then the other thing that we provided was what we called a roadmap. So we had a longer roadmap that you could link to off of this, but this was a condensed version of based on feedback, what is in the pipeline, what are we hearing from you, what are we working on, and then what has been recently completed and released. So this gave them an easy way to see, hey, I've been wondering about this. Oh, it's on that list. I guess they're working on it. One of the things throughout this project that we had to do differently was we had to be very flexible and we had to be agile. And the way we did this project allowed us to do a lot of things, and one of these roadmaps is a great example of that because we were able to communicate directly with the users, and we had this feedback loop going with them where they would communicate some things that they liked or didn't like, and we would then go in and adjust some of the things that maybe we had planned to build, move it up, move it down, and then we would then communicate that through these pages. So we're going to walk through, because like we've been talking about, all of this stuff does look good on all form factors, and so we're going to walk through and show you some screenshots of mobile, and then we're going to talk through some other stuff about how the project, some more details around the project and how we finished up.
Right. Yeah, so like Charles said, one of the main requirements that Tyson had was that it needed to be mobile accessible and it needed to look and function nice on a mobile device. So by using the BindTuning themes and web parts, basically everything that we built is responsive to any device. So whether you're on a desktop or tablet or mobile, the web parts just kind of know how to fold down and work. So we wanted to show some examples of that here. The first one is our landing page. So in here, this is kind of the middle of the page. On the tablet view on the left, you can see there's some news articles, there's some tiles, calendar, and you also notice that it's 2 columns. So then as it gets down to the point where it only has enough room for one, which is our mobile device, it knows to drop down to 1 column, and basically you can scroll up and down to find the content. Another example here is the news article. So on the left, we have the actual news article itself with all the related news on the right, because it has room for 2 columns, but when it goes down to a mobile device, it just moves the items down to the bottom. The third example, similar thing here, but what I wanted to note is that we did have some cases where we wanted to decide the way that SharePoint folded the items down and they were available to users. So in the team member summary, for example, rather than it just having the right column move below the left column, we wanted the contacts to be at the top. We figured people coming in on a mobile device are probably looking to contact somebody quickly. So we created a custom page layout on the back end that basically says, when it gets down to this size, put the top, the upper right column into the top, and then fold the other stuff down below it. So you have a lot of flexibility with the way you can set these up also. Okay, so kind of our last part of the presentation here, I'll hand it off to Charles, but he's going to walk through some of the results, some of the benefits and things that they got.
Yep. Thanks, Mike. So what was the result? So like I said, we had 8 weeks to show something and have users in this new environment using it, getting value out of it, and then we had to be done in 6 months. So not a very long amount of time. The very top level of our organization, the #1 goal was I want to get to this stuff on a mobile device. I don't want to have to be on the network. I don't want to have to use VPN. It needs to be mobile friendly. It needs to be device friendly. It needs to be accessible. It needs to be a great user experience. It needs to not only look good, but it needs to function well. It needs to be something that is intuitive, it's contextual, it's everything that a user would expect in a modern intranet. And then user enablement. So these first 3 on the left-hand side were the top 3 requirements from our executive leadership. It needs to be productive. Our users need to be able to get something out of the intranet, more than just reading news. It needs to be a tool that they use to get their jobs done, to get the information that they need. We need governance so that we don't get into the spot we were in before, so we maintain this environment that we've built. Everyone plays by the same rules, and we have a good standards going forward that we can onboard new departments, new content areas. Which gets to the onboarding. One of the things was getting someone up to speed on our old intranet took a while because you had to know the organization. You had to know where things lived to be able to find them. This made it a lot easier to onboard someone. You could get into some of these centers that we've shown you, and you could find something very quickly based on either an app you were looking for or something that was relevant to you because it's focused on the user now and not the organization. And security, all of these things would be great, but it needs to be secure. We're now moving our intranet into the cloud, and it still needs to be secure. We don't want people being able to get to things, and so we had to have some security in there, which security is built in, but we added another layer. So with all projects, you have challenges, and we had some with these, so we'll share those. We worked with well over 100 individual content and site owners. And if you've heard the expression herding cats, it was worse than that at times. But what we had to do is come to a common set of agreement with them that this is something that is going to be for the team member, and that's really how we got everyone to get on the same page. We had to get all of them focused. They were used to doing their own thing, having their own design, their own ideas of how stuff should be labeled or laid out or designed. And we may have even had a few in there that wanted to be in the IT department. But at the end of the day, it's all about the team member and providing value to them. Who's your audience? We had some site owners and content owners that had to rediscover what the purpose of their site was. As we go through some of these workshops, it's like, well, why do you even have a site? So there were some that all we did was pull items out of their site and put them into one of those centers. So why am I going to your site just to get one application that I can go get quickly out of there? Just give me the link. So that was a little bit of a change for some of them. We had to learn new tools. So the BindTuning stuff, while very easy and once you get the hang of it, very powerful, those were new tools that we were not used to. And not only did we have to get used to them, we had to train our content and site owners to get used to them as well. I think one of the things we didn't expect, or maybe we did expect, but this paradigm shift, I'll call it, that moving things from where they were at into this new kind of cloud, everyone keeps saying cloud, but Office 365, not only was this new for our users, getting used to that, it was new for our content owners, but it was really kind of a big change and a big culture shift for some of our IT folks that helped us on this. Thinking about putting this stuff in a place that we hadn't put it before, thinking about some of the different things we were doing, some of the things that we need to be able to do, like be able to monitor performance, be able to get metrics on networking, because now instead of everyone going into a very highly tuned data center where you've got servers and your WAN, everything is tuned, now you're sending people out to the internet to hit your new site. So that was a little bit of a culture change. One of the biggest ones, and hopefully you've seen it through here, was we were organization focused with our content. Everyone knew who owned their content and it lived on my site, and I control it, I manage it, and I determine how it's going to be labeled, blah, 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 and how it's going to be designed. Well, if you're a new user or you don't know the organization, I can't find your content. I've got to do basically the beginning of our presentation. I've got to call somebody eventually because I can't find it. So that took a little bit to try to get people to say, this needs to be focused on the user. And by doing that, it really, once we got everyone on that track, it was really freed up some of these workshops to really get going. Because then it was easy to start going, what is your top content? Is it user focused? Is it broad enough that it covers the whole organization, or is it a small set of users? Because if it's a small set of users, it's probably not that broad, and so we're going to do something else with it. The next one is this is just came directly from one of our executives on our HR department. Scrappy, not crappy. He had the biggest team that he was working with because there were so many different sites under our HR department. And he had a meeting with them, and during one of those meetings, he told them, he said, guys, he said, let's get something out there that's good enough. Let's get something out there that our users can start getting value out of right now. Let's not get so focused on perfection that we don't deliver something. And that's having someone at that level be able to deliver that message again, that really helped us a lot, because that's some of the messaging we were trying to give them of, guys, this is not a one and done. We'll get your stuff into this new place, and then you're going to continue to evolve it and iterate on it, and it's going to continue to build. You'll continue to add content to it. It's going to grow. It's going to evolve. So we're not over, and it's not done when we get this out there. And then we had multiple intranets. So having stuff in multiple places was a challenge. Some of that stuff was, we still have team sites and things like that, but as far as our public content, our public intranet, we're now in one place, on one intranet. So the value that we got out of this is our users got global navigation, global footers. They got a consistent experience on whatever device they were using. They could depend on going across the intranet and seeing content in a way that made sense, in layouts that made sense, designs that were intuitive, things that they could see, that they could filter, things like clicking on someone's contact and going to their Dell profile, the integration between our intranet, because it was in SharePoint Online, and all of the other things that are provided in Office 365 was a huge win. And one of the things when we went to the Microsoft Technology Center, we wanted to know how can we build an intranet that will leverage this investment that we've made in Office 365. So for our users, that was the starting point. Getting into the intranet, to read the news, to get to something they might need is the starting point of their day. But to be productive, they've got to get to other things like OneDrive or Power BI or Delve or something else, Yammer. And they're now in that place. By getting our users into the intranet, they're now into all of the other features and workloads that are in Office 365. We consolidated our content, so we were able to separate the private team content, move only the public content that the organization cared about into the intranet, and get it in one place. That helped with search, it helped with a lot of things, including administration and management of it for those teams, owners and content owners. And then productivity. I can find something quicker. I can go to tools and apps and I can find a tool that I need, an app that I need to use. And if I need something on my phone, I can click on the filter that says iOS or Android, and I don't have to hunt around for, is that the right logo for that app? Is it called this? Is it called that? I click on the link, and it goes right to the correct app, and it's in the Apple Store or in the Google Store. Many of you, that have to keep up with your intranets. By moving into Office 365, we're in an evergreen environment. So cycles that we would spend all the time whenever it was a new upgrades or maintenance to do, we've got to take time to do that, and it impacts our users. We're now in a place where as features roll out, capabilities roll out, we're just going to be able to take advantage of those. This next one was one that I was concerned about. I was really wearing my user hat when I would go around to our IT teams and say, we're going to add complexity, we're going to add frustration to our users. It's not going to be a great user experience if we throw multi-factor authentication into the mix. Why is logging in with your Office 365 credentials, your company credentials, not good enough? Well, it wasn't good enough for our security team and our legal team, and so multi-factor was a must-have. But we used the Microsoft Authenticator app and recommended that all of our users set it up where they could get the alert. And so if you've done that or experienced that, it is a great user experience. I log in, and then I sit there on the screen is, if I'm on a desktop, and the screen is telling me that it's waiting for my approval. And on my phone with the Authenticator app, an approval alert comes up, and I approve or reject. You approve it, it logs you in. If you're on your phone, it's even better. I'm trying to log in, I get the request on my phone, I swipe, I approve, I'm in. So I can live with that, our users can live with that, so that was good. And then probably the best thing of all is over the traditional route that we would have taken in the past, we had a tremendous amount of savings. We did this in half the time. This would have been a year-long project or longer to do what we did, because we would have spent probably that first 3 or 4 months just figuring out requirements, architecture, everything that we were going to do. We would have figured all that out, and then we start building customizations for all of those requirements. So let's step back into our story and see how it ended with our new intranet.
All right. So like Charles said, the project was about 6 months, so let's fast forward 6 months, and I'm going to reintroduce our favorite manager, Mike. So again, I'm leaving the office after a long day at work. It's now 5:30, and I'm sitting again in my favorite spot on the train. And while I'm sitting there, I get another email from my team member, Billy, who of course put in another last-minute request for training. Now, before I give up on Billy, I remember that I saw some communication that our new intranet is available on a mobile phone. So I figured I'll give it a shot. I find the link in the email and click it, and it brings me to a page where I have to put in my authentication, and then boom, I'm able to actually get out to the site. From here, I go out, I click on the form, I approve it, I get Billy on his way, and everybody's happy. And I am able to get back to more important activities like my fantasy football team.
So one of the things I want to say I didn't mention earlier is the project team, when we worked on this, we actually worked in Microsoft Teams. We had a couple of folks work with us from Dell. Sometimes they were on site with us, sometimes they worked remote, and we had different team members at Tyson in different locations, and that was a great application. I'm not trying to push Microsoft Teams, but it's interesting. We're hearing a lot about it this week at the conference, and we actually used it, and it worked out great for us. I will say we ended a little bit early on purpose. We wanted to give time for questions. I know this was a challenge for us when we were trying to solve this problem, and I've sat in your shoes before and thought, I want to go to one of these sessions and learn how someone did something. So hopefully you have questions, and if you do, we have some food giveaways up here if you do, and some other things. So also, I think they have T-shirts across the seats. If you didn't see one or get one, make sure you get one of those before you leave. Yes, sir.
In that timeline that you had, 6 months, did you get all the data in that time frame?
It's a good question. So one of the things when we started kind of interviewing partners for this, almost every one of them thought we were talking about a migration project. So they would start asking questions, how big are your site collections? How big, how much of this, how much of that? It's like, we are not going to just lift and move all of this stuff into the internet. You think about if you buy a new house or you move into a new apartment, you shouldn't just move right in all your stuff. You usually have some sort of let me sort through it and what do I need to keep, what do I need to get rid of? So those workshops were part of, let's get an inventory of one, what's public, because we're not moving anything but public, and two, what is relevant, what do you need to get rid of, throw away, archive. So we had very little of that. We had a lot more site new creation than we did migration, to be honest. But yeah, that was a part of it that we were kind of a little bit leery of because we didn't know how much. And a lot of what you'll find, a lot of these, it's information. It's a little bit of documents here and there, forms. It's not the amount that you see in team sites or project sites. And that's really when we had some of these department sites mixed with their team content and their public content, it looked like, wow, that's a huge site, when really in reality the public part of it was small.
Yeah, just to note too, when it was pretty regular that we would meet with the department, and when we first met with them, we'd give them an inventory and they'd go through and kind of tag everything, and they would basically just say it's all public. And we'd say, okay, and then basically end up having another 1 or 2 sessions where we walk through and walk through all of it and say, who is coming out here and looking for this? Does it make sense that anybody at Tyson would need to come out and look for this? And we'd help explain kind of why that's important. And normally after we have a few of those sessions, they would start to agree that yes, there's certain pieces that are important that we should pull out, and we'll keep the rest of it off in a team site somewhere.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yep. Yes, sir.
Could you talk a little bit about the Azure application proxy and how do you have any challenges using that to surface your internal application?
I'm going to, actually part of my team is here with us this week, and I'm going to actually ask our server admin. He's a lot more than that. He's an enterprise architect and everything. I'm going to ask him to answer that if he would.
Is it on?
Oh,
It's on, I think.
Hello?
So.
Okay, yeah. So, my name is Mark Barron at Tyson, and we did have some challenges with that proxy. First thing was we had to make sure all of our sites were HTTPS internally. We wanted to do that, so we'd have that going all the way through. We weren't, by default, we wanted that URL to be the same, no matter where they got it from. And then the second thing was just a lot of the Kerberos piece of it, where we could automatically authenticate folks into that. We had Kerberos already in our SharePoint environment, but just making sure that all that piece worked through the app proxy and made sure that single sign-on was there was really big.
I am glad you came along,
I am
Mark.
too.
Awesome. Awesome. I couldn't have answered that.
Yeah, I think, I just in general, I think that the SharePoint piece, if I remember right, went fairly easy, but it was some of the other applications that were non-SharePoint that weren't quite as easy to get them to work with Azure App Proxy, and I know that you guys did a lot of work with that stuff.
Yeah, question about Microsoft Flow. Can you talk about how that was used, how that was integrated?
Yeah, so, and I may call on, I'm not going to pick on Omar. Omar's kind of our resident Power Apps and Flow person. That's part of our team that worked on this project. They're here. So one of the things we wanted to do when we were moving into the new intranet is we really wanted to start fresh. So we started in a green field, and we wanted to get new things up there, and we wanted all of our site owners and content owners to think differently. You know, this is an environment that's different than what we've done in the past. And so one of the challenges we had for the project team was, I don't want to move InfoPath. Can we do some things where we can do things with either Power Apps or Flow or Microsoft Forms? And so we found some of these were just, some of the InfoPath forms were fairly straightforward, simple workflows, simple forms. And we even had a case where Omar built something that was kind of a last-minute request from one of our HR teams. They wanted something in there, and he put a Power App together in a couple of weeks' time. And it was, so that was really if we had to fall back on migrating an InfoPath form up there and a workflow, we would have. But we were really trying to push ourselves and go, can we do all new and try to move away from some of this legacy stuff? And so that's how we used it, is really to try to replace some of the InfoPath forms that we had in place on the old site.
Yeah, and in general, there was a mixture. I think when we looked at the tools, we had a number of things that we did in SharePoint Designer and some in Flow. I think whenever we needed to do something, we would first look to see if we could do it in Flow, but we found there was a few scenarios where it just wasn't quite there yet, and we would basically revert back to SharePoint Designer. So we did a mixture of both. Yep.
Let me ask him, you had one. Yes, sir.
You said you manage everything through lists. Could you give an example of how content's actually added to the intranet?
Yep. Let me give you one, and Mike can give you several. So the news is one list, and they add items into that list. It's, they could do a quick edit with it, but really it's a form that pops up. They fill the form out, and from a management standpoint, we really wanted to make it easier for them to manage news, whether someone adds something that they could see it and decide where it needs to go on the landing page by just prioritizing it in their list. They could manage it out of the list. And so we wanted to make it easy for them, but really some of this stuff that we're talking about, the BindTuning, the list that gets created for you has some of the fields that you're going to need and some of the forms and things like that. Others, like you can talk through maybe the contacts and some of the other ones that we did.
Yep. Yeah, tools and apps we used was basically kind of your standard SharePoint list, where there's a list in the background, you go out and modify apps and stuff. But yeah, the BindTuning web parts do have kind of little features that allow you to do it right through the page. So for example, if I want to add a new slide, I edit the page or a new slider in that hero web part. There's a little plus button right on the web part that you basically plug all that information into a little form, and it puts it into the list for you. So you can do it either way, but most end users are probably going to use it right through the web part itself. I don't know if that answered your question, but.
Let me ask your question again.
So you mentioned a separation between like what's publicly available company-wide and what's more departmental or division type information. How did you? Two-part question. So one, how did you deal with the separation of those two pieces of data, like when people collaborated, for instance? And how did you guys introduce and leverage other Office 365 technologies like Teams, Groups, Yammer?
Did someone pay you to ask that question? Oh, okay. Well, so one of the things that we're still in the process of doing is for the ones, so think of it this way. I had a department site. It was really a hybrid. It was a department/team site. I had secured libraries and things like that I did my collaboration, kept my team stuff in. So we move your public stuff into the new intranet. Your team site in most cases, or your old department site, we're going to call it your old team site, is sitting in the on-prem environment. Part of the thing when we get back from the conference, the next phase of this project, we got through with the public phase, is to get these team sites moved into SharePoint Online. And so, or Office 365. And one of the things we're evaluating is that a team? Is that a group? We think most of the team sites are going to be a group, and then there'll be some of those groups that will be teams, and then we may have a small percentage that may get kind of a standard SharePoint team site. But that's next, and that's what we're doing. I think they're going to get a lot more for their for their spend, I guess, or for a lot more for their site. When we give them a group or a team, they're going to be a lot more productive in that environment. So that's next on our list.
Tyson,
But don't forget, before everybody's asked a question, until I run out of these, you can come up and after we get done at the stage, and I'll hand these out. And you had one over here.
Yeah, your tools and your apps page, is that kind of all or nothing, or do you filter down by the associate that's logged in on the list of apps that they see?
You mean like, is it user driven?
Yeah.
It can be. We decided not to, at least for the first phase. But yeah, there's a functionality right in the web part where you can put in an audience
Okay.
And point it to people. But for this first one, we felt that when we talked to people that the back end, the fields and things that we had available for using personas and audiences weren't quite to the point where we were comfortable doing that, and that they wanted to be sure that if we published a tool, that it would get out to all the people that they wanted, and by doing that, by using audiences, they were afraid that maybe people wouldn't be able to get to some things. So for phase one, we didn't, but we've talked about potentially doing that down the road.
Have you had any blowback yet on people trying to access a tool that they technically don't have access to?
Not yet.
Not really.
Okay.
Most of those, we have a process where people can request access. We have a couple of places they can go, and that's also on that page where they can.
I didn't know if it would become the wild, wild west.
No, not really. When you think about it, we're thinking about tools that are broadly available across organizations. So we may not be talking about a tool that's specialized for a smaller team that maybe works in on an application. Think of things like booking travel, scheduling meetings, things like that. And one of the things that we found as we did these interviews and these workshops is there were a lot of teams that had a mobile version. They're paying for something to do our booking and our reservations, and there's a mobile app that goes with it. And I didn't know which one to use, or that there was even one, and there was a lot of other team members in the same boat that didn't know they existed. So when we added the feature where they could filter by operating system, so iOS or Android, it's like, oh wow, there's mobile apps now for these things that I use on my desktop. I didn't know that. So that, I think, was the biggest surprise, I guess, for me as we went through this, was there were so many there that I didn't know about, and I've been at the company for a while.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Maybe a loaded question a bit, but so how does your app, or how does your intranet behave inside the SharePoint application?
How does it behave?
The SharePoint mobile app, how does it look, feel, respond?
Oh, with the mobile app itself?
The SharePoint app,
Yeah.
that's something I get a lot of questions about.
Yeah, so the intranet that we have out there is basically we use through a browser. We don't use, so if you were to open it up in the SharePoint mobile app, basically it would come up, but it wouldn't be the best experience, and you'd want to click open in browser. But as of now, we don't have anybody that's really using it. So
I think one of the things I'd like to see, and I think I'd like to see the ability for some of these third parties to potentially feed the news tab that's on that app. So if you had like the news stuff that we have on there, if there was a way for that to potentially show up, so someone opens up the SharePoint app and they can see the company news, but they don't see the landing page. They might have a link to it or something like that, but they're not able to go to the intranet. But the news items showing up in there, I think, would be good.
Was an app-centric model something you guys considered? Like a news app?
We've talked about that. There's been some stuff going around the company of building apps for everything, and I think that, we'll see where that goes. But we talked about that. I think they felt like if they could make the news on the intranet mobile friendly, they were happy for now. We may get that request later on.
mobile's still pretty new to Tyson, so I think just the idea of being able to access it on a mobile phone is big right now, and will probably continue to evolve.
Well, we have this guy. He spoke earlier. His name's Mark Barron. No, he's in the crowd. We're working towards that right now. When we do sites, we go through. Our team works with our server team to get sites created. So in our intranet, though, it's one site collection. So anything else that's added in our intranet new, it's just a subsite that we create, and it goes in there. But as we start talking through getting the rest of our content, the rest of our stuff into Office 365, I think we will look for some of the scenarios, I think, around groups and other things where we can start to have kind of a self-service. Someone can go create their own, that kind of thing.
Just to add to that, for the intranet, we did do Basically, they have to come to one of the SharePoint admins to get a new site. And we wanted there to be some governance around intranet sites and not have them balloon out. So we developed a script that basically the SharePoint admin will run that deploys kind of all the standard intranet site stuff, and then we hand it over to them. But yeah, for the team sites and those types of things, when they move over there, they might be more self-service.
I think we got time for one question. We're out of time. What's
For your training, so two levels. For people with, do you provide training for people just basic SharePoint usage, and then also for your site admins, do you have anything special that you did for them, or any requirements, I guess, in order for somebody to be a site admin?
right? So today we don't. It's built into kind of our ongoing governance is to have part of our learning systems is to have someone that wants to be a site manager, site owner to go through a series of kind of some proficiency stuff to get up to speed. And we do have training that's provided through some other stuff like we have Brainstorm. But as far as this project, we did a lot of one-on-one training because we really were dealing with one or two people once we got down to these sites. But as far as our team members that were using the intranet as a whole, we used videos and other, we had a person on our team put together some really nice sways to help people see how they could use things. But ongoing, what we'll have is some sort of a more formal way for someone to kind of prove that they understand the things they need to be good at managing and owning their site. So I think we're out of time, but thanks everybody for coming and thanks for all the questions.